Being a massive fan of the original three Indiana Jones films, I was intrigued when it was announced Bethesda would be making an indie game. They're a AAA company after all, and that intrigue turned to excitement after I saw a couple of glowing reviews for it when it first released on Xbox and PC. So now that I've played it with the PS5, here's my verdict on The Great Circle. And can I just say real quick that I bought this in store, which reminded me there really is nothing like that excitement you feel on the way home to get to play a new release. I'm getting old. Anyway, when this game was first shown off, like most people, the main thing that caught my eye was the first-person perspective. I like first-person games, but to be playing as such a visually iconic character, it did seem strange not to be seeing him and that fedora during gameplay. But ultimately, while this is an odd comparison to make, I felt the same way about it that I do about the monkey in Better Man. I'm not thinking, oh my god, it absolutely couldn't have been any other way, but it does work and it does add something to the experience. Obviously there's the immersion factor, but also the whole sequence with the giant underwater snake is inherently more unsettling to play through from this point of view. I mean, it would absolutely petrify my snake-phobic granddad. And the recreation of the beginning of Raiders, not being able to see the boulder aside, is a really good showcase for getting to experience the adventure through Indy's eyes. For what is essentially fan service, I have to say this intro weirdly feels like a bold swing, but it works because it also winds up as a prelude for how spot on the vibe of the entire game is going to be. The way exposition is breathlessly delivered, the comedy, sound effects, using all sorts of knickknackery as weapons, it's got the spirit of the series down to a T. And new concepts like coming across one of Indy's former students on an expedition are so good, I'm surprised none of the movies ever did them. As for the main story, it maybe took a bit for the narrative to fully hit its stride, and I wish the biblical artifact unveiled right at the end had been more prevalent throughout, but overall I found it to be a rather fun ride. The chemistry between Indy and Gina is very interesting. I like how Marion's shadow looms over as their dynamic evolves. The villains are enjoyably over the top, although I probably would have found them more interesting had I realized I needed to turn on foreign-only subtitles sooner. Oops. And, like I said, that it has the spark of the original three really elevates it and the game as a whole. This is a slower, seldom action affair than you may expect it to be, and I will admit it took a while before I found myself eager to play more than one session a day. The rip-roaring momentum and urgency of the best Indiana Jones stories is lost to accommodate the luxury of freely roaming the hub worlds, which isn't a bad thing, but it does make the pacing and progression feel a bit glacial at times. But generally speaking, I love getting incentivized to explore a game world, and all the environments have a lot of cool stuff to discover. Fun and substantial side quests, notes which provide a lot of interesting world building, relics, puzzles, upgrades, and in particular I was addicted to taking photographs whenever the prompt came up. It can be a bit overwhelming in all honesty, so I did my usual thing where I got to a point where I primarily focused on the main objectives instead, which is when I really started to get into the experience, and I can definitely see myself returning to uncover more of the locations and what they have to offer. And a lot of the side stuff is just expanding on gameplay you'll come across in the main story anyway, which is exploration, puzzle solving, and stealth. Notice how I didn't say action, because while it is there, and there are a couple of really exciting set pieces in the back half, sneaking around enemy camps and wherever else is usually the way to go. Of all the games one might expect to compare this to, I really wasn't expecting Deus Ex to be one of them. but I mean that as a compliment because I really enjoyed the stealth. The levels are often very open, and so I found myself experimenting a lot with different approaches, trying to remain undetected for as long as possible, which can be a very fun challenge. It's very satisfying to knock out enemies with improvised weapons and finding somewhere to hide the body, although that never actually had an effect as far as I'm aware. And using guns only as a last-ditch resort speaks to how engaging stealthier play can be whilst also feeling true to the films, which is awesome. There is some hand-to-hand combat as well, which works for very quick scraps, but when it's outright required for encounters, it's not that great. Feels awkward, the timing of dodges doesn't feel particularly satisfying, it's awkward albeit funny to try and heal up mid-fight. I mean, imagine if you were in a scrap with someone who whipped out a bit of bread partway through, and the final boss especially was just a chore to get through. You can get upgrades, but I swear I bought some and didn't feel the impact, or in some cases like with the whip attacks kept forgetting how to use them. These parts and some of the whip climbing makes the game feel a bit clunky at times. Oh, and the insane darkness of some of these areas feels right out of an early 2000s game. But the lighter does help in that regard, and for the most part navigating these ruins is simple but enjoyable. The excellent visuals for the exotic environments elevating things quite a bit. And the puzzles you'll come across in these ruins are very enjoyable, the kind where working towards the solution unfolds very organically, which feels satisfying, engaging, and rewarding. This experience had its wonderful highs and glaring lows, but its charm always remained on full display, so overall, I was very much won over by this game and had a very good time with it. And even though I do love Harrison Ford in the role, Troy Baker and Bethesda/Machine Games' portrayal showed how much potential and life this world still has to offer, and I'd be very enthusiastic to see it explored further in the future.